Hey everyone, Equinoct here, and welcome to Higurashi When They Cry, a new Let's Play I am doing. This one has a very interesting story. See, Higurashi is a visual novel, so there will be a lot of reading, which, me and reading, that's... Ugh. But, the bright side, I am already familiar with the story and with these characters, so I will not be struggling to pronounce names, thank God. I watched the anime, the 2006 anime, and it was one of my favorites at the time. It is so crazy and mind blowing, and there's basically just a lot of murder mystery, and yeah, it's definitely not something that's for children. There is a lot of murder and blood and death, and in the anime, I'm not sure how that'll play out in the visual novel. I don't know how much it'll actually show, but it's divided into chapters, and I will be playing a full playthrough of the first chapter, Onikakushi. So, without further ado, let's get right to it. Onikakushi, Demoned Away chapter. Welcome to the world of Higurashi When They Cry. The Onikakushi arc will be the opening, inviting you into this world. Sit back, relax, and enjoy life in Hinamizawa to the fullest. The difficulty for this chapter is extremely high, but I hope you will enjoy the reward. Interesting. I'm not sure what it means by difficulty. I was just thinking I was going to be clicking through dialogue. Oh. Okay, already that is creepy. Please do not deplore yourself. Even if the world does not forgive you, I will forgive you. Please do not deplore yourself. Even if you do not forgive the world, I will forgive you. So please tell me, what will it take for you to forgive me? Frederica Bernkastel. Oh. "1983, early summer of the 58th year of the Showa era?" Oh, okay. Already getting into it. If I was going to be ripped apart anyways, having my body ripped apart would have been far better. I trusted her. No, I still trust her. Even in this very moment, I trust her. But I'm starting to realize I only wanted to trust her because I refused to accept the truth. It was as if I was trying to convince myself, in such a silly, sobbing voice. And those tears making a mess of my face. That mechanical, repetitious sound finally stilled, and everything fell silent. Only the cry of the cicadas remained, annoyingly loud. And yet, I felt as if I could still hear her voice. But that's not possible. She is no longer speaking. The only one crying is me. She never cried. Even when she repeated those words over and over, she never expressed any emotion, because there was none to show. If she had no tears to shed for me, then I shouldn't need to shed any for her. Then why this pain in my eyes getting moist? Why was this happening? I still wanted to believe I hadn't been split apart. That's enough, right? Inside me, the inner voice whispered gently. My spirit had suffered enough. And countless times I wavered over whether I should just throw the battered thing away. Except I stubbornly refused to do that, haven't I? I'd feel better if I just threw it away. Even knowing that, I chose to believe, didn't I? Only I can understand that painful struggle and appreciate it. Hey, me? I've tried more than enough. I'll acknowledge that much. So, isn't it alright to just take the easy way out? Besides, I'm not throwing it away. I'm leaving it behind with her. Like flowers by a grave. Now then, calm your nerves. Even though you can't feel your right arm, just lift it up. And with every swing, forget a little more. That kindness made me happy. That adorable smile brought me joy. I like petting your head. I love how demure you were. Because this will be the last time. Because when I swing this down, I'll forget. This is my first and last bouquet for you. Perhaps I really did love you. Oh, alright. Rather morbid poetry there, in a way. Yeah, that about sums it up. Like, there is very violent moments. Ooh. Ooh, I wasn't expecting this. Okay, that was fucking incredible. Holy shit. Oh wow. Okay, I'm nerding out now. It brings me back to when I watched the anime as a tiny little teenager. Ooh. Somebody has been apologizing for a while now. What? Can I not? Wonder what she's apologizing for. It felt wrong to eavesdrop, so I tried to ignore it. It had been a while since I'd last went to the city. I only returned to attend the funeral of a relative. Even though I'd lived there until last month, I found the bustle of the city to be overwhelming. Those skyscrapers and the multi-laned roads. The melodious I hate when they use big words. The melodious cacophony of the crosswalk. Even the campaign speeches blaring in front of the station felt nostalgic. The place where I live now isn't nearly as lively. There's only the chirping of locusts and the babbling of brooks, and the cry of the Higurashi, the evening cicadas. Rather than making me feel lonely, the quietness had begun to instill a sense of serenity. There is nothing where I'm living now. I don't just mean there aren't any burger joints. There aren't even vending machines. No music stores, no restaurants, and no arcades. An ice cream parlor? No chance. The nearest town had stuff like that, but it's an hour away by bike. But come to think of it, it wasn't really a big deal. There were music stores and arcades and ice cream parlors where I used to live, but it wasn't like I ever hung out at any of them. I have lived in the city for 10 years and never once been to an ice cream parlor. I should have gone at least once. It's only now that I'm starting to regret that a little. Somebody is still apologizing. Who is she apologizing to? She's apologizing so much, so just forgive her already. There's no reason anyone should ever need to apologize so much. I started to feel a bit annoyed at whoever was refusing to forgive her. No matter how bad the mistake, there's nothing that can't be forgiven. There's no such thing as an irreparable mistake. You just need to be more careful next time. She's still apologizing even now. Then has she really done something that can't be fixed? I have no idea what she's done, but if it can't be fixed, then that's all the more reason to forgive her. No matter how much she apologizes, nothing will change. But even so, she keeps apologizing in such a heartbreaking voice. Hey, you. The one she's apologizing to. Why don't you just go ahead and forgive her? She's apologizing in such a pathetic voice. Okay, I won't read the voiced dialogue since they're talking in Japanese. So I'll just read the part that isn't voiced. I was finally roused by my nap, by my father's prodding. It seemed the train had reached its final stop. We'd spent hours riding everything from the bullet train to the local routes. It was hard to believe that the landscape beyond the window in the city I was in half a day ago were in the same county. Country. I always get county and country mixed up at first glance. No, that they were even in the same area. From there, we'd take a car deeper into the mountains. Past where the dense forest encroaching on the mountain road suddenly opened up. There, where I live now, Hinamizawa. Alright, good start. Even though we were approaching summer, the morning air still had a frigid bite. Although in exchange, you could fill your lungs with the crisp, clean air. Flipping open the window, I was greeted to a verdant expanse. Nothing but trees. The neighboring house was far away on the other side, so I was probably the only one enjoying that view and the air. I filled my lungs with another deep breath. Since I started living in Hinamizawa, I learned that even air had its own taste. I quickly finished getting ready for school and headed downstairs for breakfast. My mother was the only one there. My father was nowhere to be seen. He was probably up working until early morning. Dad had a rather unconventional job as a painter. It's such a laid-back profession. Get up when you want, sleep when you want, and work when you want. I was so jealous of that easygoing lifestyle. I even wrote for school that I wanted to be a painter when I grew up. Dad was ecstatic about it. It was just because it looked easy. I'd never tell him that, though. Mom laid breakfast out on the table. Seaweed, pickled vegetables, raw egg, and grilled salmon. Some of that sounds good. I'm not sure about the raw egg part, though. My mom was such a good cook, it was scary. A perfect, immaculate, ideal breakfast. Unlike my dad, who didn't even know the meaning of the word schedule, my mom never squandered any time or effort. She hummed a little tune as she brought over the miso soup. It seemed like she was in a good mood today.
こっちに引っ越してきてから圭一が早起きになって嬉しいわね。
早起きしないと朝飯を食いそびれるんだよ。
I thought I was being cute, responding with a wisecrack after being praised for being good.
ご飯はいっぱい？それとも半分くらいでいい？
山盛り。
First, I savored the steaming hot rice with the seaweed. After that, I covered it with the egg. Between bites of rice, I enjoyed the crunch of the pickles. Not bad at all. Excellent, as usual. Watching me clean my plate, Mom gave me a warm smile.
こっちに引っ越してきてから圭一が朝食を欠かさないんで嬉しいわね。
I was not a morning person when we lived in the city. I slept right until the last minute before school and rarely ate breakfast. Boycotting the breakfast Mom made me each morning, that was probably the only way I could protest me being forced to attend cram school. I guess that was what you'd call that was what you'd call my rebellious phase. I wouldn't so much look at the breakfast she woke up early every day to make. I'm sorry guys, I'm trying to get better at reading. If I could go back in time, I'd slap myself. Mindful of the time, Mom rushed me along with a wide grin.
そろそろレナちゃんと待ち合わせの時間じゃない？急いで急いで。
Mom really seemed to enjoy the fact that her son was going to school with a girl. Rena is one of my classmates. She really loves looking after people, coming to meet me every day without fail. The way I looked at it, a guy my age walking to school with a girl was just lame. But, well, keeping a classmate waiting for me every day wouldn't be very considerate. Seriously though, how long does Rena wait there for me every morning? Taking one last gulp of miso soup, I raced for the door.
レナちゃんにお漬物ありがとうって伝えてね。
Come to think of it, those pickles weren't store-bought, were they? If I'd known that, I would have savored them a bit more.
あいよ。
圭一くん、おはよ
Aw, she's so cute. Her cheerful greeting was as fresh as the morning itself. Okay, I think Rena is one of my favorite characters. I've only seen the first season of the 2006 anime, so I don't know everything about the whole story, but I do know, like, bits and pieces of what happens after the first season. And Rena is definitely one of my favorite characters, like just from the first season alone. Her cheerful greeting was as fresh as the morning itself.
相変わらず早えな。たまにはのんびり朝寝坊したっていいんだぜ。
お寝坊したら圭一君を待たせちゃうじゃない。
Oh, I didn't know the lips would actually move. That's a nice detail. She's so conscientious and such a good person.
そん時は置いてく。
圭一君冷たい。いつも待っててあげてるのに。
サクサク置いてく。キリキリ置いてく。
どうして冷たいんだろう。
Rena had a slightly troubled look on her face. Toying with her was rather fun because of how quickly her mood changed.
嘘。ちゃんと待ってるよ。
With those words, Rena seemed to relax. Her face flushed bright red.
ありがとう。
レナが来るまでずーっと待ってる。いつまでも。
Rena turned bright red, steam rising from her head as her brain short-circuited. She's especially weak to this sort of talk. It's quite rare to find someone this fun to tease.
レナはロマンスものの文庫本は読んだことあるか？
ないよ。読んだことない。
Oh. From that response, I gathered she was interested in them, but was too embarrassed to actually buy one. I couldn't imagine what would happen if she did read one. She'd probably turn red and pass out.
そうそう。お袋から伝言。漬物サンキューでしたって。
どういたしまして。どうだった？しょっぱくなかったかな？
They weren't that salty. Actually, they had a pretty light flavor to them. It would have been fine to just be honest and say that they were good, but apparently I couldn't be that forthright.
その前に聞きたい。あの漬物を漬けたのはレナか？レナのお母さんか？
なんで聞くんだろう。しょっぱかった？
Her attitude changed completely as she began to panic frantically.
レナか？レナのお母さんか？
Okay, Chi, you're such a dick.
なんで作った人聞くんだろう。太郎。
どっちが作ったかで感想が著しく変わる。
She counted frantically on her fingers, trying to remember the amount of salt she used to pickle them. It wasn't like I was trying to tease her, but I couldn't stop myself. Yeah, that's a good excuse for any guy to have. I just couldn't stop myself. Guys who take pleasure in this kind of thing were probably the worst. Guys like me. Yeah. Rena nervously opened and closed her mouth over and over, trying to muster a response.
レナだけど。
うまかった。
Delicious. Oh, he said that.
前回に続きなかなかだったぜ。飯との相性は最高だった。
Her face went bright red again. She was completely spacing out. It truly was a lot of fun to tease her. I pray that Rena never gets taken advantage of by some lowlife. Keep at it, Rena. I'll train you until you handle it like an average person. Oh, I'll train you until you handle it like an average person. Or so I decided to myself.
行こうぜ。ミオンを待たせるとあいつうるさいぞ。
What a guy. Seeing that she just keeps spacing out otherwise, I called Rena back to reality so we could make our way to school. The strange, easily flustered girl is Rena Ryugu. I've only known her for about a month, but I've come to realize that it's not just her name that's strange. I love the art. Like, when I started this game, I was advised to get the 07th mod for this game's sprite art and music, and I can see why. It is very beautiful. Coming up to the next rendezvous point, we saw another person waiting for us. Noticing us, she waved.
遅いよ二人とも。
いつも遅いのはお前の方だろ。
Our sharp contrast to the diligent Rena, the one who marched to the beat of her own drum. She's Mion Sonozaki. For what it's worth, she's our senior and head of the class.
おはようレナ。そしてケイちゃんお久しぶり。何年ぶりだっけ
2日しか休んでねえよ。
そうだっけか前に会った時はこんなにちっちゃくて可愛かったのにな。
Mion's gaze started at my chest, then dropped straight down, focusing on the point between my legs. So she was saying that my crotch... So she was saying it was my crotch that was cuter back then? Before you ask, just be clear, I've never actually tried to show it to her. Oh, there's no voice. I've grown quite splendidly. You'd be surprised. Not only is he bigger, but he has a little mustache now. Being so engorged with energy every morning is quite a problem, though. I'll introduce you next time, so be sure to greet him Be sure to greet him properly. Okay, I get that you're friends and all, but... then again, I have made very sexually explicit jokes with people I'm close to as well. I guess it all depends on, like, the friend group you have and how comfortable you are with each other. Don't say next time right now. Oh, right now it's just fine. How about... damn, Mion! How about letting the little guy get a breath of fresh morning air? I don't think I've ever heard talk so dirty you could smell it fouling up the morning air before. Mion sure does that like an old man sometimes. Gotcha. Time for the big reveal. Hope you don't regret it. As my hand reached for my fly, Rana began to ramble in a near panic.
ねえねえ、何の話？何の話だろう？何の話だろう？
Red-faced and flustered, Rena tried to play dumb, but it was obvious she knew exactly what we were talking about.
どうだった？久しぶりの都会はさ。
Mion switched gears, dropping the dirty talk and changing the topic to something more befitting and pleasant morning.
葬式で行っただけだぜ。
Befitting
慌ただしいだけだったよ。
the pleasant morning. Sorry guys, South Arkansas education here.
でさ、探しといてくれた？頼んどいたやつ。
お前、人の話聞いてないだろ。 俺は葬式で帰っただ。おもちゃ屋巡りをしてる余裕なんかなかったんだよ。
ちおもちゃ屋とホビーショップは全然違うよ。特に洋物、こっちじゃなかなか手に入らないからね。
みーちゃんまたゲームの話？
Mio nodded proudly as Rena giggled.
そう、ケイちゃんに洋芸のカタログを持ってきてもらいたかったんだけどね。
Westport was short for Western Imported Games. Using that abbreviation did make it sound pretty geeky.
そんなのまた通販で取り寄せりゃいいじゃねえか。
ま、そうするかな。またプレイングの熱いゲームを入荷するからね。
今度は私にもわかりやすいゲームがいいな。
Mion is a board and card game enthusiast, and I hear she's collected quite a lot of different ones. According to Rena, Mion's room has kind of become a museum for domestic and foreign games.
俺にも分かりそうなゲームがあったらやらせてくれよ。
いいよ。ケイちゃんさえ良ければね。でもうちらのレベルは高いよ。
上等じゃねえか。俺だって遊び100番遅れを取るつもりはないぜ。
じゃあ今度はケイチくんも仲間に加わるのかな。
Bristling with joy from head to toe, Rena looked back and forth between me and Mion. Mion gave her affirmative wink, and her expression perked up even further.
男の子ってきっと外で遊ぶ方が好きだと思ってたからダメかと思ってたよ。
Rena laughed happily. From such a friendly conversation, you wouldn't think I had moved here less than a month ago. I understood that they did all they could to make a transfer student like me feel at home. I'll have to try harder to fit in, so they won't feel like they have to try to make me feel welcome. I felt like if I acted a bit more open than I usually am, it should probably be about right for this place. Hinamizawa was a really small village. Not only was there only one school, but there was only one class. That class encompasses all different grades and ages. There are about 30 students at different levels, and they all study in the same class. I'm told that long ago, there used to be a bigger school building and they had actual separate classes. However, it seems something happened that made it become a single class, and now it's stayed that way out of tradition. I was shocked at first, but humans adapt pretty quickly. I've actually gotten quite used to it. The sound of the children playing started right from the morning. With such a lively mood, it felt more like a kindergarten than a proper school. Not that that was a bad thing. Mion, who had been walking in front of us until then, suddenly let me take the lead, right in front of the classroom door. So I was meant to slide the door open and enter the room first. Heh. Too bad, I wasn't gonna fall for that again.
ここで先頭を譲るとはな。お手並み拝見ってことかよ。
Mion chuckled with a haughty smirk on her face.
どうしたの二人とも。
下がってろレナ、危ないぞ。やつだ。
じゃあさとこちゃんが？
Her name was Sadako Hojo. She was a disrespectful, impudent, bossy kid. The way she talks was annoying, but it would be immature to get worked up over just that. The real problem was this.
見え見えの罠だな。引き戸の上に挟んだ黒板消し。見え見えだぜ、サトコ。
A haughty laugh came from beyond the door.
お見事、ケイちゃん。こりゃ今回は勝負あったかな。
いや、相手はサトコだ。これだけとは思えない。
After falling for such intricate traps since the day I transferred, I no longer let my guard down. Sadako liked to combine a variety of traps. Traps that were simply there to bait you into the main one. Traps that relentlessly kept coming at you like a sadistic Rube Goldberg machine. The list goes on. As well as being clever, they almost never misfire. When you least expect it, she strikes. No escape, no time to relax.
見たところ黒板消しは普通。石とかは入れてないみたいだな。
I took a pretty heavy hit from a blackboard eraser loaded with rocks on my first day.
じゃあさガラガラって開けて落としちゃえばいいんじゃないかな。
それだ。
That's what Sadako was after. Making me focus my attention upward, so as I lifted my hand to the door, there were thumbtacks stuck in the sliding door handle with tape. A frightening trap. A potent and terrifying trap. Concealed by using the blackboard eraser.
見事なコンボだ、サトコ。だが所詮はガキの浅知恵だったな。
Assured of my victory, I threw the door open and stepped into the room. I felt something strange at my ankle. It was similar to the sensation of a jump rope catching on my leg. By the time I realized it had me hooked, line, and sinker, it was already too late. I began to fall in an almost picturesque manner.
ケイちゃん、避けて。
Instinctively reacting to Mion's shrill warning, I twisted my body in midair before I landed on the floor.
いっててって。
An inkstone filled to the brim was placed right where I would have landed. I shuddered, imagining the situation had I landed square on it. Ugh, reading.
あらあら、これはこれは。おはようございます、ケイチさん。朝から賑やかですわね。
Still sprawled in an awkward position, I was greeted by a mocking voice.
一段とスペシャルなトラップワークになったじゃないか、サトコ。
私何のことかわかりませんもの。朝からついてませんわね。
てめえ。あ、ててててて。
Okay, so it's interesting. This was a huge reason I wanted to play the visual novel. It's because this scene never happened in the anime that I saw. I know they cut out a lot of the smaller things, and I hear some of the bigger things that would have made the story make a lot more sense. But so people say like the manga is better because it has more information in it. The visual novel is the same way. But I believe they added this scene in the reboot. Not the reboot, but like the new anime that just came out, which is awesome, by the way. But I digress. I'm a huge nerd for this story. It seemed I'd inadvertently sprained my back a little when I landed. Better than landing on that inkstone. Aw, Rika! A small hand gently rubbed my head.
ケイチの痛いの飛んでいけです。
The small, dainty hand continued gently to stroke my head.
腰とかはくじかなかったですか？ こうして撫でていれば痛いのは消えてきますです。
I thought about asking how rubbing my head would help my back, but I didn't. It's not so much about what you actually do, it's the thought that counts.
ありがとな。リカちゃんのおかげで痛みが引いてきたぜ。
リカちゃん、おはよう。レナにおはようございます。みんなにもおはようございますです。
Rika-chan greeted... Rika-chan greeted each of us with an adorable little bow. It was infectious. Rena, Mion, and I all bowed back.
リカちゃんはいい子だよな。それに比べてサトコは。
I glared over in her direction. Sadako was whistling while rather deliberately trying to avoid eye contact.
サトコはいい子でございますのことよ。
いい子はこんな凶悪な罠は仕掛けないぞ。
言いがかりでございますわ。何の証拠があって、
I picked up Sadako by the back of her collar. She looked like a misbehaved cat when I do this. But a cat wouldn't be setting traps. She's much harder to deal with.
ごめんなさいって言ってみな。言わないなら。
I cocked my index finger and my thumb, letting it tremble as I brought it closer to Sadako's forehead.
暴力反対ですの。証拠もないのに。
言っとくが俺のデコピンはすごく痛い。ベニヤくらいなら割る。
やめて、寄らないでけだもの。
人様が聞いたら誤解するような言い方をするんじゃねえ。
A small hand tugged on the back of my shirt.
圭一が2日間もお休みしたから寂しかったのです。
Rika-chan really is just so... How could I do anything more after being told that? I gently released my grip on Sadako, who at this point was on the verge of tears. She still had her eyes clamped shut as she braced herself for my forehead flick.
悔しくなんかないもん。泣いちゃダメです、サトコ。はいと、おーです。
Rika gently petted her head. Rika gently petted the head of her prankster friend. You would never guess that those two are the same age. I think Sadako could learn a thing or a million from Rika-chan.
今度はもっとすごい罠を仕掛けなさいですよ。
Wait a minute. As she observed the scene, Rena's expression grew ecstatic as she began to swoon.
サトコちゃん泣いている。かわいいよ。
持ち帰っちゃダメだからね。
いや、だってこんなにかわいいよ。
どんなに可愛くてもダメなの。
でもちょっとくらいならダメかな、ダメかな。
Rena kept a cutesy face even as outrageous ideas spoon from her mouth. Ugh. According to Mion, Rena is ridiculously weak to cute things and always tries to take them home. Object or person.
物もまずいが誘拐はもっとまずいぞ。諦めろ。
じゃあ見てるだけだよ。それならいいよね。
Rena swooned over Sadako's crying for him. If a girl ever goes missing in Hinamizawa, I'll be forced to turn Rena into the authorities. Forgive me, Rena. I'll be sure to bring you care packages when they put you away.
先生来たよ。早く片付ける。さとこ、すずりあんたのでしょ。
Just from Mion's single statement, the entire mood of the room shifted back to normal. The inkstone was bad, but the thumbtacks stuck in the door handle were an even bigger problem. I pulled the tape off carefully, making sure not to skewer myself. Even though Sadako was the one who set it up, everyone had to pick up after her. By the time the teacher entered the room, the bedlam from before had been neatly tidied up.
間に合ったね。起立。気をつけ。
Mion gave out the morning commands. It's difficult being the teacher for all these different grades in one classroom. She has to teach something different to each one. But naturally, she ends up spending all of her time with the younger kids. Rena and Mion, being the highest grade in the class, end up mostly doing self-study. They even end up helping teach the young kids, so it seems like they can never get to their own studies. They're actually way behind where my studies have progressed to. As a result, I'm pretty much taking over for the teacher and helping Rena and Mion with their studies.
ケイチ君はお勉強教えるのうまいね。わかりやすいよ。
Rena took a breather after finishing highlighting an important section.
教える端から自信がなくなるよ。自分の理解の浅さがわかるな。
人に教えるには3倍理解してなければならないって言うしね。ケイちゃんもうちらに教えながら同時に復習もできてるわけなんだよ。
In contrast, this person over here is... Oh my god. Lysis... I don't think I'm stupid. I honestly do not think I am a stupid person. But when I see words like that take forever for me to even sound them out, it's kind of ridiculous in a way. But there, that sentence. For one, isn't she supposed to be in a higher grade than me?
ミヨンさ、一言じゃないぞ。真剣にやんないとまずいぜ。こんなレベルじゃ。
別に進学校を目指すわけでもないし、受験に必要なそこそこができてりゃ十分十分。
Her staunch defiance was really something else. Even a word like staunch, I don't come across that word normally in my everyday life, so when it just pops up, I'm like, what, that's a word? This was a different type of relaxed than someone who already knew what was going to be on the entrance exams. Again, sorry if...
ケイチ君が頑張って教えてくれるんだからさ。
Sorry if this is horrendous to hear, but I know I'm trying to learn as I go on, people.
私たちも頑張ろうよ。
レナは素直ないい子だな。先生がきっといい学校に進学させてやるからな。
ありがとう。
レナには特に教えてやるからな。二人きりでプライベートレッスンだぞ。
Oh boy.
プライベートレッスン。
A puff of smoke shaped like a halo popped out of Rena's head. Exactly what kind of private lessons is she fantasizing about that's making her turn so red? Like you didn't intend that. I'd like to hear the play-by-play of the next time. Of that next time. While Mion was flipping through her vocabulary flashcards, she threw out a casual question.
都会じゃさ、こんなに勉強しなきゃいけないわけ？
この程度はできないと進学できないね。
進学できないから勉強するわけ？
まあ平たく言えばそうなるな。将来役に立たないのは承知で。
こっちじゃあさ、出席日数が足りてりゃみんな進学できるんだよ。
そうなのか？
Study equals entrance exams. Having the basic law of the university so easily overturned sent me into a state of shock.
そうかもね。試験で振り落とさなきゃならないほど人もいないし。誰でも進学できるならさ、そんなにガリガリとやることもないんじゃない？
まあそうだけど、でも一般常識程度にはできた方が。
おじさんはそんな無駄な勉強に時間をかけるよりさ、この思春期の貴重な時間をもっと有意義に過ごすために使うべきじゃないかなと考えるわけよ。
It was too profound of a statement to simply laugh off. But since it was Mion, it probably didn't actually have that deep of a meaning. In place... Oh shit. I accidentally clicked.
じゃあおしまいおしまい。さあ楽しいランチタイム。
In a complete 180 from her unmotivated state, Mion gave the commands that signaled the end of the morning period.
ケイチくん、お昼にしよう。
Yeah, that was pretty much me in high school. Like, as soon as the lunch bell rang, I went from, to, yeah, let's do this! I might have been making a very troubled face. Rena smiled brightly at me.
よっしゃ、飯にするか。
There seemed to be different cliques even within a class. Most of them were divided up by gender and age, but our group was different. Our ages were different, and we had both boys and girls, but we weren't reserved around each other. This level of openness makes a transfer student like me pretty happy. Rena and Mion pushed their desks together so that they were facing each other. At the same time, Sadako and Rika-chan were slowly lugging their desk over as well.
ケイチくん、早く早く。
Rena weaved her chopsticks in an unrefined manner, trying to hurry me along. Unless everyone was together, they wouldn't even open their lunchboxes.
ケイチさんのお弁当はミミチク、日の丸弁当に決まってますわ。さあ、恥ずかしがらずにお見せなさいな。ほらほら。
Even though Sadako was hurling insults at me, she still wouldn't open the lid to her lunchbox until I was there. I pulled out my lunchbox swiftly and dragged my chair over to join the circle.
おう、お待たせ。
では、ミー委員長の号令でいただきますです。
At first, this was kind of embarrassing, but I got used to it pretty fast. At this point, I probably wouldn't even open my own lunchbox if someone else was too slow. Our ages and genders may have all been different, but we were all friends.
いただきます。
The sound of our little 5-part chorus echoed beautifully throughout the classroom. Really though, I've gotten pretty used to this group made up of all girls. Of course, there are other boys in the class, but they were a lot younger, so they were scared to approach me. Well, that's to be expected. Younger boys just see older boys as scary. Compared to girls, well, at least these girls aren't picky. We put all the side dishes in the middle where everyone was free to pick at them. I thought girls would mind sharing a meal with the guy, so I was a bit flustered joining in. However, Mio noticed that and teased me quite a bit. As the fruit of my efforts, I can now reach over and take sides from anyone's lunch.
あらあら、ケイチさんのお弁当は今日は大奮発ではございませんこと。
あらあら、さとこさんのお弁当こそ大奮発ですこと。煮物がしっくていい感じですわ。
Buying into the fight that Sadako was starting, our chopsticks locked in cross counter, stabbing into each other's lunch.
お、里芋がいい感じだぞ。煮物は冷めててもうまいよな。
After seeing my happy face, Rika-chan's expression broke into a little smile.
夕べの夕食の煮物少し取っておきましたですよ。
By the way, Sadako and Rika-chan's lunches are always the same. It seems that Rika-chan makes it for both of them every day.
この煮物もリカちゃんが作ったのかい？こいつはお袋の味クラスだよな。
I was honestly impressed. The carrot rosettes weren't from a mold. They were done by hand with a knife. That's not easy to do.
リカちゃんって何気にそういうの得意なんだよな。
お裁縫とかお洗濯とかも上手なの。すごいよね。すっごいよね。リカはいろいろとすごいんですのよ。
お前が威張ることじゃねえ。
僕よりレナの方がお料理は上手です。そのね。
It seemed that the topic of conversation switched to Rena when she wasn't expecting it, making her blush and trip over her words. Girl, I feel ya. Rena's lunch was really the star of the table. Not only did it look good, it tasted good. Everyone else pulled from Rena's lunchbox constantly.
これ前に評判良かったからいっぱい作ってみたの。美味しいかな？
かなり合格点。あ、ミオ、お前取りすぎだよ。
Knocking Mion's chopsticks aside, I reached out, trying to secure my own portion. Sadako and Rika-chan reached over at the same time, and a struggle ensued. Everyone shoveled a mouthful after mouthful while praising it, and Rena's lunch box was soon empty. It was kind of bad that no one thought to leave any for Rena. But Rena seemed rather satisfied as she looked on.
いかがかしら。レナさんもとてもお料理が上手ですことよ。ケイイチさんとは大違いですの。
だからお前が威張ることじゃねえだろ。
サトコだってケイちゃんと変わらないじゃんよ。あんたブロッコリーとカリフラワーの区別つくようになったわけ？
Sadako's face went pale.
おいおい、ブロッコリーとカリフラワーの違いなら俺だってわかるぜ。
わかりますもの。わかるもん。
It's really hard for her to lie.
ケイチくん、どっちでも茹でてマヨネーズかけると美味しいじゃない？いじめちゃかわいそうだよ。みーちゃんも。
Rena hurriedly tried to follow up, but Mion laughed haughtily and she drew closer to Sadako.
まあまあ家庭科の授業ってことで。じゃあサトコ、これは？
Mion lifted up her chopsticks. Between them was a piece of green stuff wrapped in bacon.
でもそれアスパラ。
Mion made eye contact with me, and within 3 seconds, I had Rika-chan's mouth covered. Holding a piece of bacon-wrapped asparagus, and giving her 2 choices, she's pretty terrible.
その黄色がカリフラワー、緑がカリフラ。
さあどっちだ？
多分黄色がブロッコリーで青がカリフラワー。
Blue one.
でも緑は
Does she have a hard time with color or something?
本当にどっちか分かってる？降参した方がよくない？
I expect no less from the class representative. The oldest. The way she drives people into a corner just shows how much experience she has. This is just a hunch, but being brought into the Sonozaki household must have been quite the ordeal.
わかりますもの。わかるもん。
じゃあ答えなよ。
わかるもん。わかるもん。
She finally broke down and started crying. When she acts like this, she actually starts to seem her age. Rena entered the state of euphoria as Sonoko bawled her eyes out. Rena was in a state of bliss as she rubbed her cheeks against Sadako's head and smothered her. Really, a very content face. One that wouldn't care if the world ended right then. It was that kind of smile.
レナ、ミオンさんがいじめるんですの。かわいいかわいい。大丈夫だよ。レナお姉ちゃんが悪い人たちはやっつけちゃうからね。
Whoosh, boof, bam! It was like a flash of lightning.
今一体何が？
Both of Rena's fists shot up at supersonic speed, striking Mion and me squarely in our faces. Before we knew it, Mion and I were sprawled spread eagle on the floor, staring up at the ceiling with matching whelps on our faces.
ケイちゃんは食らうの初めてだよね。今日のはまだ甘い方。
甘いってこれよりまだ上があるってのかよ。
With that, Mion and I both slumped our heads back to the floor in unison. From now on, I'll be careful when I'm within striking distance of Rena.
ほらさとこちゃん、やっつけちゃったよ。かわいい。お持ち帰りしたい。
Making sure Rena couldn't see it, Sadako stuck her tongue out at us. Tissed, damn it all, using Rena as a puppet. Rika-chan massaged our bruises without saying a word. Weird friends, but strangely wholesome. No matter what the day had held, the last school bell always came too soon. Our shadows stretched off into the distance.
ねえケイチくん、明日はさ、何か予定とかあるかな？
え？
It was sure such a direct question for Rena, I inadvertently blushed. If it was for a date, then wouldn't you do it more subtly? Rena saw me lost for words and realized that I'd misunderstood and turned red as well.
違うの。そういうのじゃなくて、
So apparently that wasn't what she meant. But since it's always fun when Rena's in a panic, I went along with it for a little.
なんだ そういうのじゃないのかよ。
Playing it up, I slumped my shoulders, feeling dejected. Oh, feigning
圭
dejection.
一くん、なんでがっかりしてるんだろう。太郎、みーちゃん。
Unable to hold it in any longer, Mion slapped me on the back.
そっか、そういう攻め方はおじさん知らなかったわ。
なになに、なんなの？
Mion was rolling on the floor, clutching her stomach, while Rena flailed around, completely bewildered. I couldn't help but start laughing as well. Feeling a bit guilty, I ruffled Rena's hair.
嘘、ごめん、冗談。悪かったよ。
She really is a cute one.
冗談ってどこからだろう、どこからだろう。
え、あ、途中から。
途中からってことはケイちゃん、最初の真っ赤になったのはあれ演技じゃないんだ。
それって。
It was only a momentary lapse, but there was no way Mion would let such a delectable detail slip by her.
え、あ、いや、その。
Saying anything more would also be a bad idea. In my bewildered state, I slipped further into unfavorable position. After that, Mion continued to tease me about it for a while.
で、明日が暇だと何なんだよ、レナ。
何の話だっけ？
It had been so long that Rena had forgotten. That's how long Mion had teased me.
ケイちゃんさ、まだこのひなみざわ一人じゃ回れないでしょ？
That was true. I hate to say it, but if you blindfolded me and spun me around 3 times like we were playing Pen the Tail on the Donkey, I wouldn't be able to tell up from down here.
そうだな。町へ行くのと学校へ行く以外はまだ自信ないな。
そうそう、それでね、明日ね、みーちゃんとレナでお散歩しながらケイチくんにひなみざわを案内してあげようよってことになって。
That would be a godsend. Frankly, I was happy about the offer.
もちろん行くでしょ？
暇ならな。
女の子が誘ってんじゃん。
暇ならな。
どうせ暇なんでしょ？
暇ならな。
I was being stubborn so as not to give a clear yes or no. Even though I thought it was a godsend, I'm too much of a scamp to say so up front.
ケイチくん、暇じゃないのかな、この。
While Mion and I had our rather sour back and forth, Rena peeked over at me hesitantly. Figuring I'd been a bit too rough with her, I just gave in.
すまん、許せ、ごめん。暇だ。
よかった。
The trepidation disappeared from Rena's face as it blossomed into a smile.
おうおう。ミヨンさんとレナさんじゃ随分と温度差がありますじゃん。
It seems Mion didn't care for how rude I was to her compared to how quickly I agreed with Rena. But her being annoyed was very interesting. So I pushed Rena forward, speeding up our pace to leave Mion behind.
行こう、レナ。明日は二人っきりで出かけような。嫌味なミオンは置いてって。
ケイチくんがそれでいいなら。
内しようって提案したのは私。シカトすんな、前原圭一。
二人きりでピクニック嬉しいな。弁当は持ってくか、レナ。
お弁当いるならレナ作っちゃおうかな。
レーナもシカトすんな。二人がラブラブだって村中に回覧板を。
じゃあレナ、今日は早く帰ってお弁当の準備するね。明日が楽しみ。じゃあね、ケイチくんにみーちゃん、さようなら。
Rena bounded off like she was walking on the moon. After the dust settled, all that was left of me standing next to Mion sprawled out on the ground. There was a whelp on her face.
大丈夫か？ミオンとレナの立ち位置2メートルは離れてたはずだぞ。
あんたが来て以来、切れ味は増す一方。おじさん身が持たないわ。
Maybe it'd be easier if you stopped saying stuff that makes Rena want to hit you. Or else this will end up being Mion's slapstick comedy hour. If that happened, the results might be fatal.
くじけるなよ、ミオン。レナのジャブを見切れるのはお前しかいない。
私は膝じゃないかと思ってんだけどね。
Could it be that we were hanging around with an unrivaled martial arts master? Maybe someday we'll see her debut in an extreme contact sport.
レナには負けられないぞ。ミオンも鍛えてリベンジだ。
ケイちゃんがしてよ。おじさんは応援してる。
Mion and I reaffirmed our destination to discover a way to counter Rena's infallible technique. Whew. Alright, this will be a rather long episode, but I'm gonna call that here. Yeah, and again, I am sorry for how my reading is. It is kind of embarrassing, but I do want to play more games like this to kind of practice reading more, and I can read in my head just fine. It's not like I have a learning disability or anything. It's just reading out loud I have trouble with, and I don't get why. But I do want to get better at that to make it more entertaining to actually read things like this. But aside from that, I do enjoy playing this game, and I do like all the new things that I'm seeing in the Higurashi story that I didn't see in the anime. So I want to keep playing through this whole chapter, and when I get to the end of the chapter, then I may take a break and just see how well received the series as a whole is before continuing to the next chapter. But thank you all for tuning in and joining me through this very long story we got going on. And if you like it, feel free to leave a like, subscribe, all that jazz. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. I will get to that whenever I can. And I will see you all in the next video. Later.